Dr. Ray back with you all. Thank you for tuning in again. I'm here with a very special guest. Today we have Dr. Tiffany Darby. She is the founder of Darby Counseling and Consulting. Uh, Dr. Darby has earned her doctorate in counselor education and supervision. She specializes in a whole host of things, so I'm very excited to talk to her today. And so, we'll explore that as we go through the interview questions. But first and foremost, thank you, Dr. Darby, for joining.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Of course, so am I. So if we can, I'd like to start by talking about what was your journey to creating your practice?
Yeah. Whew. Like it was a long one. So I've probably been in practice now over 20 years at this point. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. So born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. Didn't go too far. I went to Kent State University, which is only like 45 minutes away. So I have been close to Cleveland. Cleveland is in my heart. I've worked in the inner city from the start of my career. Worked in a kind of behavioral camp is where I got started after getting my bachelor's degree, and then went to like case management. Where back then we did like in-home, right? Like we were going in home and, grassroots kind of work. And so just helping people who look like me. Juvenile court, had a lot of clients in juvenile court, and went on to like partial hospitalization, residential treatment. I worked in a variety of settings, but all usually nonprofit community-based services, and did that for a long time. I got a little burned out probably in like 2013. And at that point, I had been practicing 15 years. So I was a clinical director at a residential treatment facility in Cleveland. And it was a lot. I was tired, and switched over to education. So I was working at the Cleveland School District for about 2 or 3 years. I was the director of strategy and operations, which is like a chief of staff to the CEO in Cleveland schools. So I had like an overview of the school system, which was interesting because there's a lot of us, people who look like me, who need some help. He actually had me move into a mental health role where I was overseeing all of the mental health services provided in the district. And at that time, it just wasn't where it needed to be. At least I didn't feel like it was a little subpar. There wasn't a lot of people who looked like me working with the people who look like me, right? Like the babies that look like me, wasn't a lot of me doing it. And I said, okay, I'm done with working for other people. Number one, like I'm good. I've done that long enough.
Yes.
I kind of want to make my own hours. I want to do what I want to do, but also still helping my folks. So that's where Darby Counseling and Consulting came from. I decided to branch out and make my own, kind of fill some of the gaps that I know we have in Cleveland with mental health services. So, yeah.
Can you talk specifically to what those gaps are? I think you've kind of touched on it a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? Not enough people who look like us helping.
Yep. That's number one, right? Yes. So, and we also don't believe in therapy. A lot of us, right? Still, we're getting there. I am noticing 2020 did some things. I have way more Black clients than I've ever had outside of the community health. Let me say that. In private practice, I didn't anticipate as many Black clients as I have. Like 80% of my clients are Black. And so, A, not having enough clinicians that look like them. B, not necessarily believing. A lot of my clients before were mandated, right? So they were juvenile court, they were children's services. So they had to participate in services, but didn't really want to, right? Yeah. So I did the best I could with what I was given. They still, they did the best they could, but I don't think that they wanted it. So getting us in a place where we want the service and we realize how much we need it, right? Like growing up Black, like we're supposed to pray, right? Like pray it away, like go tell your pastor, which I love the Lord. I deny that at all, but I also know that God made counselors and for a reason, right? So he created us for a reason to assist in the works that he does, right? And so getting us to believe and buy into that as Black folks it's a challenge. So that's a barrier. Access, right? So even if they found somebody who looked like them, where are they? Are they on a bus line? Are they leaving an agency, right? There's so much transition in these community agencies because A, they don't pay enough. They don't value definitely the Black clinicians. And so it's hard for our families to make the connections that they need to make and keep those connections. So like I already don't trust folks, but so I find somebody that looks like me, but then you leave the agency, 2 or 3 months later, and that's an issue, right? So if I can provide more access, see, my therapy is all online. So the therapists I have, they go, you're meeting the clients where they are. So they don't have to go anywhere. They don't have to get in the car. There's a stigma still around mental health, right? So if you're going to counseling, I work with a lot of young males, Black males. They're like, I don't want anybody to know I'm going to counseling. But so if they're online, no one really has to see it. So that's a piece that, I think there's pros and cons to both, right? And so I think that was filling in the gap. And then internet, right? Internet access or a phone, right? Like, so some of the clients in the lower income areas don't have the access to internet. They don't have the access to telephones. And so that piece is still, I think, a big one. One of the bigger ones is still missing.
Correct.